It's over. It is done. The Florida Gators have parted ways with Billy Napier as the head coach, effective immediately. He will not coach another game. The tenure is done. 22-23, the final tally for Coach Napier at Florida. We'll talk about all that, a little bit more about how it went down, and a little bit more about what we're going to do next as a football program. But before we get into any of that, welcome back to the All Kinds of Weather Forecast. A somber day here, but a day that we all knew had to come eventually, and what must be, or what should be done eventually, was done eventually, as opposed to what Jeremy Foley said must be done immediately. But it was done, and it is done. Billy Napier is gone. So here at the All Kinds of Weather Forecast, I'm your host, Neil Shulman. You can follow me at All Kinds Weather. Co-host Adrian Perez here at Gator Diamond Pod for his baseball, softball stuff. Also follow him on Twitter personally at ADNDEL. Adrian, I'm going to give a quick shout out to our sponsors before we get into the breaking news here. Got to take a second to shout out 401k Generation, the wealth management company that helps you invest today for your future tomorrow. Their team of advisors is committed to providing guidance and education for your 401k plan and its participants, and they also offer a range of enrollment solutions tailored to meet the unique needs of your company's 401k plan. Whether it's savings for your child's college, investment advice, or even just your retirement, 401k Generation's team of advisors makes getting to know you their top priority. Their advisors will tailor a path to assist you in navigating life's financial milestones and reaching your financial goals. That's 401k Generation, building stronger futures, one generation at a time. For more information, contact them 866-998-5879 or visit their website at 401kgeneration.com. And the second sponsor shout out actually is going to be a little personal shout out here to our own Dustin Smith, who Dustradamus somehow nailed the exact score yesterday, calling Florida winning 23-21 over Mississippi State. Now, that was his personal prediction. The model said something slightly different, but still pretty close. Dustin, I don't know. He had some kind of secret formula that he took the initial model's output and then thought about it as a little bit more detail as a human being, combining his own mathematician skills versus with his football knowledge that he has personally, was able to nail that score exactly. So good for Dustin, and good for his model for giving him that baseline right there. That is patreon.com/CFB Forecaster, where you can get exclusive access to everything behind the forecaster model that helped Dustin absolutely nail that pick. So top 25 rankings, top 25 power rankings, complete 136 team rankings, and weekly game-by-game projections with model spreads, totals, and win probabilities. So you also get some early data drops, deeper analytics breakdowns, and even the ability to request custom simulations for your team, whether you're a Gator or not. So if you love what we're building here, your support directly helps us continue to improve the most data-driven model there is in college football. So again, that is patreon.com/CFB Forecaster. Go check it out and join the community today. All right, Adrian, we talked about it a little bit off air, but it's a day we knew had to come for Florida. So we talked about it actually last night in the stadium. There were some rumblings that maybe Scott Strickland was going to drag his feet a little bit more and Napier was going to survive for a little bit longer, but no, it's not the case. So your initial reaction to hearing that Billy Napier is officially finished at Florida?
My initial reaction was that I had to see it to believe it, obviously, right? I've been here saying that, I thought Billy was going to coach the remainder of this season, and he got hot. He'll be back next year. So I had to see it to believe it. I was not going to let myself get fooled again. And it finally happened. And, fittingly, Neil, today's been kind of a gloomy, rainy day here in Gainesville. The morning started out fine, very pretty morning. And as the day's gone on, it's gotten gloomy, it's rainy, and fittingly so, man. Yeah, Billy got fired, but Billy walks away with generational wealth, okay? Any way you slice it. Okay, he's going to be perfectly fine. And he went out the way he wanted. At the end of the day, no one forced him to do nothing that he didn't want to do. Okay? So, hey, he's fine. It's those hundreds of other people, the staffers, the assistants, all those folks. Some will be retained, obviously. Some will stick around. But many, many, many of them, unfortunately, if they want to stay in the industry doing what they were doing, they'll probably have to do it somewhere else besides Gainesville. So you're talking about moving, you're talking about picking up families, getting kids out of school, all stuff that's not nice, So those are the ones that you feel for, and they're not walking away with multi-million-dollar monies in buyout either. Okay, they're walking away with probably their last check, and thank you for your service. So those are the ones that you got to feel for. No one should shed a tear for Billy Napier today at all. Okay, but in the long run, this is a period in Gator football that didn't have to happen, Neil. It didn't have to get to this. I'm a firm believer if Billy Napier had just done what everybody saw probably a couple years ago and hire himself an offensive coordinator, play caller, everything else was in place for him to be successful here. Maybe even his game day management would have gotten better if he didn't have to be worried about that darn play sheet in his hand and trying to design the next offensive possession. So we didn't have to get here, but we are. And one thing, and I'll leave with this, man, one thing that I don't want to hear, because you've already seen some of the rumblings from some of the old talking heads, and I'm talking about the old ones, like the Tim Brandos and stuff like that, blaming the Gator fans for this. Come on, man. That is such a sorry take. Tim Brando's time is done. He needs to go. That take is just pathetic. But we'll see where Gator Nation goes from here, where the Gator football program goes. But you know what? It's going somewhere that Billy Napier was not going to be able to take it. I guarantee you that, Neil.
Yeah, that's pretty obvious. And it was obvious a year ago. It was obvious when Miami bashed our skulls in the swamp. And then 2 weeks later, Texas A&M did the exact same thing. Like, nobody is surprised by what's happened today. Maybe you could say the timing is a little surprising on the heels of a win, but then you think about how the game played out, how Napier coached. I mean, you talk about coaching to win versus coaching not to lose. Napier coached the game to lose the game. I mean, that 3rd and 1 was one of the sorriest play calls I've ever seen in my life, only because Blake Shapen made one of the worst decisions I've ever seen a quarterback make in my life. Did Napier survive that? Also, there was a 3rd and 7 quarterback power run with a guy that, as you've been saying all year, well, is he healthy? Is he not healthy? I don't know. What's the deal with him? Well, if he's not healthy, you're going to run him on 3rd and 7 on a QB draw like he's Tim Tebow. That makes perfect sense to me. Also, you run the ball down to the shadow of the goal line. You get within the 5-yard line, maybe to the 6 or so, almost all on the ground. And then you throw 3 straight passes, Napier. Like, I don't think that really checks out there. And then, of course, you have the famous issue rearing its head again, where the Gators are not able to count to 11, which pushes an extra point back 5 yards. Like, all the staples were there. All the staples of Napier's stupidity that have been on display for the past 3.5 seasons were right there again. Not to mention, we still couldn't line up for a field goal properly. Forgetting even the extra point issue where he had 12 guys on the field for legal substitution. Forget that. We had a field goal attempt by Trace Mack where there's not one, but there's 2 penalties in a row that push the kickback 20 yards. So maybe he should have hired a special teams coordinator like I called for all those years ago when South Carolina came to the swamp and we blew them out 38-6 and no one wanted to hear about it. But in that game, you have a punt blocked, an extra point blocked, a field goal blocked. You give up a 40-yard fake, or you give up a 40-yard punt return. You have a fake punt for a touchdown. And then on that punt return, I'm out of fingers on this hand, so we got to go to the next one. 6 special teams issues in one game. On that 40-yard punt return by Juice Wells, you have a Gator sling him down by his face mask. So I said after that game, maybe hire a special teams coordinator next year. What happens the very next week? Jason Marshall fumbles a punt in his own end zone because he tries to field it at his own 5-yard line. It is 3 years later, and Billy Napier has not done a damn thing to fix it. And I could do a copy and paste job for all those issues with his offense. That's not what this show is for right now. What I'm trying to get to is I have no sympathy for Billy Napier whatsoever. Zero. I do think he's a good human being. But we say on this show, we keep it respectful, but we keep it real. Keeping it respectful means I'm not going to bash Napier's character anymore. I mean, I think we've beaten that horse to death. I don't think he's the brightest guy, but I'm not going to, shame him for that. It's not his fault. I'm not going to be disrespectful any more than just saying that statement. I don't especially wish ill on him. I wish his family good health. I hope that Napier continues to be a good father and a good husband. I have no indications he is not that. So I'm going to hope he continues to do that and takes care of his wife and his kids. And I wish them all the best as well in their lives moving forward. But I'm thrilled to see Billy Napier go. There's not, oh, I'm sad it didn't work out. I mean, to a degree, kind of, because he was initially way back when my first choice to replace Dan Mullen, but that was contingent on him doing some things and changing some things up that he just never did. So having seen that he is not going to be the guy that adjusts and adapts as new things roll themselves out to him, it is a thrilling day for us to be rid of him. And we'll talk about this more in the week too. But to me, it's thrilling that Russ Callaway is going to get a trial run as offensive coordinator. Who knows? Maybe he'll do so well in this trial run that the next head coach for Florida retains him. I don't know. It's possible. Maybe that goes for Ron Roberts too. Maybe the new coach comes in and says, you know, I don't really want to do a whole program facelift right now. I don't really feel like losing 40% of my team to the portal. So maybe what I do is I retain a lot of the assistants here and keep the players. So if Ron Roberts' defense continues to ball out the way they did the first few weeks of the season and the offense takes a step forward with Callaway calling the plays, maybe that's how you keep this roster intact next year. Maybe that's how you keep Dallas Wilson and Vernell Brown and DJ Lagway and Jaden Ball all on this roster next year. So this season, while the national championship is long gone from consideration, there's still a lot to watch for and a lot to be excited for and hope for, because if things do work out well the rest of the way with the current assistants and the current staff and the players that are on this roster that are not seniors and don't have a choice but to come back next year, there could be a lot of stuff to build off of. And it was Billy Napier and his offensive stupidity, for lack of a better word. You could call it stubbornness if you want to be polite, and his pride, but I'm going to call it stupidity because that's what keeping it real means. Billy Napier's stupidity was what was holding all of this back from succeeding. That pair of handcuffs is now gone from the Florida Gators. So that's why I'm happy today. I'm not happy about a pair of children being told, yeah, daddy's lost his job and he's got to move now. And that goes for all the assistants potentially. But this is a great day for the Florida Gators football team, for the football program, for the fans, for the alumni. It's just a great day to be a Gator right now. And to your first point, I'll address last. It was a gloomy day. I started this morning very early in Jacksonville, Florida. That's where my cousins are. And I drove all the way back to Charleston, South Carolina. And it was gloomy. It was very, very gloomy outside, very dark gray clouds. But around 1:10 or so, I got the final text and it said, it's over officially. Go ahead and put it out there. That was what it said. It's over, period, officially, period. Go ahead and put it out there, period. Maybe 30 seconds later, I see just the smallest ray of sunshine beam through. Just the slightest bit of blue in the skies up ahead in southern South Carolina. So maybe that's God smiling down on the Gators, but maybe it's a coincidence. But you know what? It is a good time to be a Gator right now. And when we say in all kinds of weather, we mean the sunny times too. And here's hoping that there are more of those ahead.
That's what Swanee Spurrier used to say. Swanee, nah, God was smiling on the Gators today.
What I was going for.
He used to say that all the time. But yeah, man. Hey, man, listen. It's a moment. It's a day to turn the chapter on, a chapter of a person that was given every opportunity to be successful and then some, and he just couldn't do it. And yeah, that fatal flaw. Say what you want to say. I mean, you say stupidity. I just say stubbornness. He was just a very stubborn person and felt that his way of doing things was going to be the right way to do it when it came especially to designing an offense and play calling. And he's just really bad at that. I mean, really bad at that. And it looks to be that he's the last guy in the room to figure that out. And until he figures that out, he's going to continue. Man, he might have success at, a Power 5 or stuff like that. But a Power 4 school, a Group of 5, but a Power 4 school, no way, man. He's never going to have success being an offensive coordinator, play caller, and a head coach. Never. So
No, he's not. And I mean, we talked about this a couple weeks ago too. I think it was before the Texas A&M game. We said, or I asked you the question, very, very ad hoc and late in the show. Where do you think Billy Napier goes next? And now we have at least the ability to see that play out, because the first step to that happening has been done. He's been fired at Florida. So I'm very curious to see where he goes. I wouldn't be shocked if he takes an FCS job. I think, thinking about it more, it probably is going to be Group of Five, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's like some kind of starkly surprising departure to North Dakota State, or I don't know, James Madison is FBS now, but maybe like a Villanova or a Montana, or like one of the better FCS programs. There's a surprise opening and he goes and takes that job and does well there. I could see that. I do agree with you that most likely is the Group of Five. So, or like a quasi Group of Five, like a really low level Power Four school, like a Central Florida. I mean, they just got Scott Frost, but they're technically a Power Five school now. So somewhere like that, or maybe like a Rutgers, or I don't know, a Kansas State, or something like low on the totem pole. Maybe Stanford or Cal, one of those types of schools.
I don't see none of those.
I'm saying that's the feeling. I'm saying that's the best it'll be. That's the absolute best job he's going to get.
He is going to go back to be a head coach somewhere, because he has said it. He has said that what he enjoys the most of football is being able to design offenses and calling plays. That's where he finds his most enjoyment in football. He said yesterday in his post-game interview that he loves football. So he'll probably go back to coach somewhere, but I just don't see him being hired. I think his career in a Power Four conference is done for now. He's going to have to go prove himself big time somewhere
for a long time.
Like you said, and he's not going to be hired as an OC in a Power Four. So he'll probably go to, like you said, a Division II school, maybe somewhere close to where he's from. Maybe back to Furman. Who knows? Does Furman have an opening? Maybe he'll go back to Furman and coach up his alma mater. Who knows? But something like that. Wish him the best of luck. Wish it worked out. Like everybody always prefaces.
I don't hate the man. I hate the coach, but I don't hate the human being. It's a good guy. From all accounts, he's a good person.
I was listening to local radio here last week, and the host said something about the one thing he finds, distasteful about what's going on. Not that people want him fired, is that the vitriol towards
Steve Russell. That was Steve Russell. You and I listened to that in your house last night before I made it back to Jacksonville. That was wild. Go ahead and address that. That's actually a good segue. Go ahead and address that. What do you think of the vitriol?
I just don't get that.
Spoken about him.
I just don't get that. Most everybody who ever talks about Billy, they preface everything by first saying how he's a great guy. Hey, Billy's a great guy, but he's awful at his job. He needs to be replaced. He had an opportunity. Now he needs to be fired. That's not vitriol, So I don't get that. To me, it's just another way of blaming the fan base, a fan base that we've talked about it before here, Neil, now has sold out, 16 straight games at the Swamp, pays $20 for a hot dog. That's awful. Some of the worst concessions probably in all of college football are here in Gainesville, regardless of sport. Scott Strickland has tried to say that that's not on him. He doesn't control that, whatever.
But
the fan base gives to everything. The booster fees get jacked up literally every year to have your season tickets, regardless of sport. Again, they went up over 100% from one year to the next in baseball. And fans pay it. You go to all these venues, and half the time more than half the time, obviously, most of the time they're sold out, jam-packed. So the fan base has been very good to Billy Napier, has been very good to the football program. And to even hint about this being a toxic fan base or something like that is absolutely asinine.
Well, it's lazy. And all the stuff that you just mentioned about the prices going up, that's the one thing where I kind of do have a little tiny piece of personal disdain towards Napier. And it's only in the sense that, look, I do pay the booster fees. I've done it since 2018. And I've been screaming at him since 2022, or at least on this show, not to him in person. But I've been loudly vocalizing my disdain as him as a play caller. So I've been making it known quite loudly and quite unapologetically that he needs to do this and that, meaning specifically hire a special teams coordinator, a real one, not an analyst, and hire a real offensive coordinator for the past 3 seasons. Called it after 2022. FSU game in Tallahassee, 22. Come out of the half after gashing the Noles on the ground for the entire first half with Montrell Johnson and Trevor Etienne. Opens the second half. 1, 2, 3 passes incomplete, 3 and out. Second drive of the second half. 1, 2, 3. 3 more passes incomplete. A second 3 and out. That was the break it moment for me where I screamed that's it. No, this is over. There's no rational way to justify Napier calling the plays again next year. Here we are 3 years later, and at every available turn, after me paying every single penny that I paid to go continue to support him, he refused to do a damn thing about that. So there is a little bit of personal disdain there, but it's 99.9% about the job he did as a head football coach. The fans who do the same thing deserve better. The players deserve better. Those staffers that you talked about, who are now going to have to pull their kids out of school and move, they deserved better. They deserved a better leader in that spot, doing more things to help their overall success as opposed to doing what he wanted to do. That's what it came down to. And you said it on the State of the Program show. And I think Allie Peak said the exact same thing. Do you want to be a head coach, Billy, or do you want to be an offensive coordinator, Billy? Well, he chose, and it cost him his job. And that's the second coach now that we have seen lose his job in the last 5 years because he just could not get over his own pride, could not get out of his own way, and just could not get over himself and his own decisions. And, whether it was Dan Mullen refusing to fire Todd Grantham or now Billy Napier refusing to fire himself as the play caller, 2 completely different head coaches with very different personalities and methodologies and just ways of doing things. But at the end of the day, the end result is the same. They both got themselves fired because the results just weren't good enough. Napier, of course, far worse so than Dan Mullen. And let's finish the show by breaking all that down. So we've talked before on the show about just how historically bad Billy Napier is. So let's talk about that in a little bit more detail, just to give a little bit more of a complete picture on this. So Billy Napier finishes his career at Florida with the following record, 22-23. So breaking that down a little bit more versus non-SEC teams. So against the FCS, he's 4-0, and against the American Conference, he's 3-1. So right there, the one sticks out pretty glaringly. That's South Florida this year. But all right, so 22-23, you take out those results. So now you have 7 fewer wins and you have 1 fewer loss. That's 15-22 against the Power 4. That, just for everyone's reference, that is only... Yes, because we cannot deal with decimals here or fractions here. So we're going to say that is only twice as many wins against the Power 4 as Urban Meyer had in his first season at the University of Florida. Urban Meyer beat 7 Power 4 teams in his first year alone. And Billy Napier in 3.5 seasons beats 15 of them in total. So that's pretty bad. 1-0 against the Big 12. There's a technicality there. That's Central Florida. Whoopee. The Pac-12, he's 1-2 against them. Lost to Oregon State, and he splits a pair of games with Utah. He's 1-4 against the ACC rivals. So that's 0-2 against Miami and 1-2 against FSU. And now we'll go through the SEC records. 0-1 against Arkansas, 1-1 against Texas, 1-0 against Ole Miss, somehow 2-0 against South Carolina, which living in Charleston is absolutely hysterical. 2-0 against Mississippi State, 1-1 against Vandy. And note that that's pre-Diego Pavia Vandy. So no, we're not going to give Vandy any respect for those teams. Texas A&M, he's 1-2. Missouri, he's 1-1. Here's where it gets really gross. Kentucky, he's 1-2.
Yeah.
Tennessee, he's 1-2. LSU, he's 1-3. Georgia, he's 0-3. Those statistics tell the story right there. He is statistically altogether, everything put together, he is the 6th worst coach in Gator football history with that 22-23 record. Winning percentage of 48.89. The only 5 coaches worse than him, Josh Cody, who coached from 1936 to 39, finished with a record of 17-24. Raymond Wolf, who coached from 46 to 49 and had a record of 13-24. Thomas Lieb, who coached Florida from 1940 to 1945, and the big asterisk there is that was right in the heat of World War II. He finished 20-26-1 with 1 tie. And then there was a pair of coaches in the 1910s, more than 110 years ago. Alfred Buser, who finished 7-8, and C.J. McCoy, who finished 9-10. That is it. That is the entire list of coaches in the 120 years of Florida Gator football who have ever been worse than Billy Napier. So when we talk about being historically bad, when we talk about the fan angst, and I know there's hyperbole and there's prisoner of the moment and all that, and we want to get clicks with the knee-jerk reactions. No, it really was that bad. No, we were right to say this is the worst, because none of those other guys had 1/1,000,000th of the resources that Billy Napier has at his disposal to succeed. No NIL, no transfer portal, no recruiting budget, period. There's no private jet to go fly anywhere to recruit anyone outside of a 3-hour radius. There is none of that. No army of staffers to count the grains of sugar that are placed into your coffee. There is none of that for anyone before Billy Napier got here. So there is a very strong argument that this man was the worst coach in the history of Florida Gator football. The percentage was the 6th worst, but when you factor that in, when you take it from the approach of what did you do with what you had at your disposal standpoint, this man is verifiably the worst that has ever coached at the University of Florida. So again, we have to separate the human being from the coach. I don't wish the man ill personally. I do believe he's a good guy. I got to know a lot of his players a couple years ago, and I did that deep dive culture piece on him. I believe what they told me. I think he is a good man. The man as a football coach, the worst in school history. I will stand by that, and I will stick by that take for as long as I live.
Yeah, you can't argue with everything you laid out there, man. You cannot argue with that. It is what it is, man. That's a very good point. With all the resources he was given, regardless of his record, but when you add it to that, right, it's tough to make a case against him not being the most disappointing, the worst coach in school history. It is what it is. Like you said, it is what it is. It's not a personal attack to say he's the worst coach in school history. Again, I separate the human being from the coach. I didn't say he's the worst person to ever be employed by UF. I said he's the worst football coach in school history. No, I challenge anyone out there, drop it in the comments if you have a criticism of that. If you have facts to back up something else, someone else being the worst coach in history, go ahead and do it. I keep coming back to that he was given full reins to do it however he wanted to do it. Okay, he wanted to go mainly high school route, build the team from the high school ranks, the culture and all that good stuff. He dabbled a little bit into the portal, but nowhere near as much, obviously. He just would get a handful of players every year, never doing the big all-in buy-in in the portal, especially in the first couple of years, man. I think he could have benefited in the first couple of years from going real heavy portal to bank in a couple of extra W's, to build a little bit more of that insurance, right? And he never did that. He always wanted to just build it through the high school ranks, build the culture. And then obviously he was given full carte blanche to do whatever he wanted with the offense and be the play caller. And I think for Strickland to not have just demanded him hire an offensive coordinator this season, there is where Strickland really has that to answer for, because that's on him. And for the news to have come out that they tried to look at hiring Charlie Weiss Jr. So you're telling me that you tried to hire Charlie Weiss Jr. You figured out that you needed an offensive coordinator, and all you did was just go to Charlie Weiss Jr. That's it. That fell through. So you said, oh, well, I guess it's Mace still. And Strickland was fine with that. Either way, that doesn't jive, man. If that's how it went down, or it's just not an accurate story, and they were never going to hire an offense coordinator this year. They never even looked into it. It was just going to be Billy with the keys, and he was going to drive this car until he drove it off the cliff like Thelma and Louise, and until it got to this point. And unfortunately, he drove it off the cliff, and it got to this point. And that's on Strickland, man. And it's tough as a fan base to know that Strickland basically gave himself a contract extension with a golden parachute at the end of a consultant fee for however many years after he retires. Nice little golden parachute, man. And this is the type of result. I mean, Todd Golden will forever be Strickland's golden boy, no pun intended, and pretty much has saved him. Probably saved his job, to be honest with you. But I say that, and who would have fired Strickland? I don't know. Board of Regents? I don't know.
Yes, that is good fire. Raul Patel. Yeah, people. Yeah, they're. I mean, look, I know that Florida doesn't really have a full-on president yet, but it's like if you take a good look at the athletic program as a whole, and you look at Strickland's overall hiring record, it's pretty difficult to justify bringing him back. Like, there's no possible way you can look at that record and say, yeah, you know what this program needs? This athletics department needs more of this guy. Like that, there's no justification for that. And you can talk about the way that Strickland likes to put pretty buildings up on campus. Then fine, let him play Minecraft on his own time with a demotion. You don't make him the athletic director of the University of Florida and task him with everything else that there is to do at the University of Florida just because he's good at this one thing, just because he's a good fundraiser and can rub elbows with the right people and put up some nice buildings. That just doesn't make any sense. But the Charlie Weiss thing, just another one of the distractions that comes out of that, comes out of those buildings. Before we wrap up the show, we got to point one thing out too. There have been two major, shall we say, news breaks of developments with the new Ben Hill Griffin Stadium, with the renovations that are going to come. So the first one comes when the University of Florida is looking to choose its builders. They're going to talk about who is going to wind up contracting with them to put up the renovations, make those happen. Those happened to drop. That news dropped on, guess which day, Adrian? The same day that Trevor Etienne transfers to Georgia, and morale among the fan base is at an all-time low. We just lost our best player to Georgia. They're burning the jerseys. They're screaming with their frustration on Twitter. And Strickland's idea of how to appease them is to drop this little news bulletin. Well, don't worry. We may have lost our most explosive running back to our biggest rival in the SEC in Georgia, but don't worry about that. We've chosen the people who are going to build our new stadium. And then the plans for the new stadium leak out this week with all the rumors and all the source wars playing themselves out on Twitter. I don't think that's a coincidence. I don't think that there's any way that just happened to be what happened. And the news just happened to break that way. It's the exact same tactic as Scott Strickland announcing his own extension and alongside with the 3-game suspension for Kevin O'Sullivan the night before the Long Island football game. Because who's going to get mad, right? I'm in the clear. It's the night before the opening kickoff game against Long Island. Football season starts tomorrow. Gator fans are happy. Let's drop this news right now. No one would dare to get mad at me now, right? It looks like some very, very shady PR tactics are being deployed from those offices. And I, for one, noticed them, and I think the rest of the fan base, agree with me or not, that this is some kind of seditious act. Agree with me or not, you should at least recognize that this is happening and this is purposeful.
Where do you put in there Chip Howard resigning or retiring?
I don't know that was really announced on UF's dime. I think that there were some people who were going to talk about that sooner or later anyway, so UF decided just to get in front of it. That one I'm not so sure about.
You think that there's more changes coming to the UAA?
Yeah, I mean, there are changes.
More turnover there?
Yeah, I mean, we're kind of getting a little
off track here a little bit.
But just to answer your question very, very quickly, I mean, there's been a lot of change happening within the last year. I mean, within the last 365 days, Linda Taylor's been gone. More recently, Melissa Stuckey, Jamie McCluskey, and Chip Howard all gone. In comes Amy Myers-Haas and Michael Seeley, and they're also going to get a new CFO and a new COO. So a lot of business moves being made, especially recently. Linda Taylor happened about a year ago, but very recently there's been more change happening, and that's not the kind of thing you have to do that what you call the Friday afternoon news dump, like what happened with Strickland giving himself the extension essentially. So just something for y'all to note. Just know that it's happening. Make whatever conclusions from it that you want, but note the pattern of this happening. So, Adrian, we'll talk a lot more this week about what's happening with the Gator football program. We have a game to break down. We're not going to get to that today. This show is already well over a half an hour, but we're going to talk what happened with Florida, Mississippi State later in the week, and we'll talk about what's going to happen with this football program the next 5 games, as well beyond that. We'll talk new coaches. We'll talk who we want. We'll talk who we think is going to be the pick, like we've previewed before. But for now, the Florida Gators are free of the Billy Napier shackles, and that does feel good. And you've got something else to say, and go ahead.
And before we check out, I just want to say congrats to Billy G. I thought that was a good choice to be the intern guy. In the grand scheme of things, it's probably not a big deal breaker or deal maker with regards to the Florida football program's future. But for right now, good for him. He deserves it. He's been a Gator for a while through 2-3 different administrations here. 3 different coaches, right? Urban, Mullen, now Billy.
Yeah.
So good for Billy G, man. He'll be in charge of the team. You'll have Ron Roberts in charge of the defense. He could stay up in the booth. And then you'll have Callaway. I'm sure Billy G will let him tell him, just go do it, man. Go crazy, whatever you want. And I think Billy G will be able – you might see a big change in just the way the game day operations function, just with a different voice in charge of that, man. And that's what I'm looking for, And good.
Yeah. Sorry. No, I was just going to say we're nowhere close to the point where we're going to predict the Florida-Georgia game. But if I'm Georgia – I see all these things happening, I'm already very nervous. I know they just beat Ole Miss. I know they do have more talent than Florida. They very well might still win the game, but their chances to win this game just dropped precipitously with giving Russ Callaway the reins to the offense and getting Billy the hell out of those buildings. They may still win the game. I'm not calling a shot here. I'm not saying Georgia's going to lose. I'm not saying Florida's going to win, but I was going to be about 90% sure Georgia would win that game because we talked about it all game against Mississippi State. Billy Napier just loves those one-score games, and he doesn't know, and his teams don't know how to close them out. That favors Georgia. So
let me say my line. Let me say my line. Find yourself somebody that loves you as much as Billy loves one-score ball games.
Yeah,
and we said it when he was hired. You looked at Louisiana, man. He was involved in a ton of one-score ball games, even though he was the vastly superior talented team. That's just Billy ball. Hey, one last point. UAB fires Trent Dilfer. They come in with a new staff and stuff, and they beat an undefeated Memphis. So you never know, man. You never know.
And UCLA. Look at what happened with UCLA when they fired their coach.
They're undefeated. Since they fired their coach, they're undefeated. So, hey, maybe it's that little spark that a team needs, man. All in all, it makes things, and we'll talk about it more, but it makes things, it takes that dark cloud over the program. As soon as there was a 3-and-out at that ball game against Mississippi State on Saturday, you could hear the fire Billy coming from different areas of the stadium. Yeah. Coming from different areas. Sometimes you can hear it from the student section. Sometimes you can hear it from behind us, from the alumni. Sometimes you can hear it from us. And, that's gone now. That's gone. So that's good, man. That's good. That's a good thing.
It had to happen. Well, unfortunately, we could not do what Jeremy Foley said in terms of what should be done eventually, must be done immediately because Scott Strickland is our AD. And so what should have been done eventually was done eventually, which is not how you're supposed to do things. But look, it is better late than never. We will take it, and we will have at least some hope in the last 5 games of the year. Who knows? Maybe we'll make a bowl game. And maybe, just maybe, these current staffers will be retained by the new Florida head coach. Obviously, there's going to be some kind of flavor where from the new coach's old school. Like, let's say it's, for argument's sake, it's Lane Kiffin. He's going to want to bring some guys over from Ole Miss, coaches and players and staffers. But the hope is you keep enough of what was built here at Florida that if there's success these last 5 games, there could be some genuine reason to believe in the team's prospects in year 1, not down the road, but hit the ground running and win right away. But we'll talk about all that more in the days and weeks to follow. For a breaking news show, this was even longer than I thought it was going to be. We're already at 40 minutes or so, but that's all we have for now. I do feel for Napier's family. I do feel for him as a human being. But I really, like you said, feel for the staffers and the assistants and their kids. It's not easy, and I don't take that lightly. And I wish them all the best. But this is a business. College football is a business, and the Gator football program is a business within a business. And a business decision was made to make this move. So what had to be done was done, and we're all thankful for that. So until next time, y'all, Neil Shulman signing off with Adrian Perez. Be sure to follow him at Gator Diamond Pod for all of your offseason baseball content. And until next time, go Gators in all kinds of weather. Let that sun shine through and give us something to smile about.